Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad to be allowed to pitch for Berlin here. The Berlin Senate Department for Economics is sort of the equivalent of a ministry in the Berlin state and the equivalent of the Karnataka government, actually. That's what the Berlin city government is. So as I'm pitching for Berlin, we'll have a bit of a different angle to the topics we've been hearing and talking about up to now. Berlin is the capital of Germany. Berlin is the biggest city of Germany, but Berlin has, well, from here I'd say only 3.8 million inhabitants. So you might have a slight sort of smile on your face now, but still there's a lot of similarity. And when I look at the cities of Berlin and the state of Karnataka or the city of Bangalore, I find there's a lot of overlap. There are a lot of similar things, and we do have a lot of issues we have to resolve and that are quite similar. So Berlin is a very diverse city. If you like numbers, I can give you some, but I have to look at my notes. About 24% of our population are foreigners. They come from more than 170 nationalities. 40.6% of our workforce have already worked in a different country, so they come from abroad. And 90% of our workforce speak English, which can be very practical because German is not such an easy language. Well, so this diverse city also has a very diverse and very big startup ecosystem. And more than half of the VC capital that goes into Germany has been flowing into Berlin for the last couple of years. So I think that's quite an interesting feature as well. Again, to numbers, we have about, well, more than 600 startups that are being founded every year. About 80,000 jobs have been created by startups in Berlin, and 18 unicorns have come out of Berlin. So it's really very dynamic. And as I said before, it's very diverse, very different startups in many, many fields. So as the government trying to support this structure, we've tried to find some structure to actually get a better grip to the problems that we want to tackle. So we've sort of found a structure, which I find, and I'm trying to point out, is very similar to what we've been hearing here and about what the Indian Advantage Summit is tackling. Like one of the structural elements is impact startups. Well, I mean the NASCOM and no, the Damayatri is the classical impact startup. I was really impressed by that. And also all this green mobility, urban mobility, circular economy, all these fields that we tackle, well, in this case, environmental problems, and at the same time solving these problems with economic measures. So it's a very interesting field and very important field. I think we can't do without it. Impact is also in these e-mobility. Berlin is very strong on automotive and electromobility. We have an agency for that. So it's very much the same things we're tackling here. Berlin is, we call it a city of enablement. That's another structuring thing. And well, what we've heard before from the Karnataka government and what I've been hearing about during my 3 days in Bangalore, it's been that the government and also public-private partnerships and foundations are all trying to find out how to help startups, how to help the people who want to do things with mostly digital skills, how they can be empowered, how they can be enabled to do what they want to do to reach goals, to solve problems. So it's very similar what we do. And what I've also realized that both cities are cities of a lot of talent. Talent is our third point. Talent, I'll just mix it in with diversity, which is the fourth one, and I've already talked about that. So talent, as we have a lot of universities of applied sciences, we've also have research and development institutions. Berlin being the capital, they sort of concentrate there a lot. So we do have a lot of talent. We have a lot of young people coming to Berlin, liking Berlin too. And well, having been in Bangalore for a couple of days and knowing about Karnataka, Kerala, and whatever, I know that India has an abundance of talent. And I must admit, we'd like to tap into this abundance of talent. It's really interesting and it's amazing. And we have I think this is the moment to do sort of some advertisement for Berlin as a city to live in. I mean, Berlin is is really interesting. It's got a very interesting history. It's got a lot of culture, from concerts to museums to everything. You can have a really good time in Berlin. There are lots of clubs, there are lots of dancing things, there are lots of restaurants. And it's also comparatively, you know what I'm thinking about, easy to get around. We have a very good public transport system. We do have a lot of shared mobility instruments. We can cycle. We do cycle a lot, actually, because it's a flat city. And the streets are quite big because it's flat. It wasn't sort of, it's not so old. It doesn't have a narrow old city. So it's quite comfortable to move. And it's I'm not talking about the weather. You'll find out for yourself. But, well, come back to our agenda. Enablement is what all the governments do. That's what we do. That's what we want startups to do. We want talents to come. But I want to also say we do have companies that already exist and big companies that already exist. For example, we have a suppliers industry. We have a lot of chemical and pharmaceutical industry. So we do have the Berlin Economic Development Agency, who tries to play a big role in the connection of all that. So the big word is cooperation, and that's what the summit is about, isn't it? So cooperation between, well, existing companies and startups. Cooperation between startups abroad, Bangalore, Karnataka, and in Berlin. Cooperation between companies in Berlin and startups or companies in Karnataka, and the other way around. Cooperation between universities. And this agency we have is sort of internationalizing companies that are in Berlin, but also helping companies or startups from abroad to actually establish themselves in Berlin. So there's a lot of cooperation going on, but there's always room for more. So I'll hope this will be a good place to connect for room for more. And just to stop, or to finalize my statement, I just want to tell you that on the 25th of November, there is the opening of the Asia Berlin Conference, which is Asia Berlin Summit, sort of, which is an event that is very India-centered also. And you're very welcome to Berlin, and I'm glad to see the one or the other person who's here now there at the Berlin City Hall. Thank you very much, and I wish you a very good continuing of the conference. Thank you.
We can just play the Berlin video as well, and then we